And I am going to call this meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. All right, welcome to our April 21st council meeting. The next item on the agenda is we have the roll call. Ms. Martinez?
Mayor Coleman,
Here.
Councilor Carson,
Here.
Councilor Daniel,
Here.
Councilor Broyles,
Here.
Councilor Griego,
Present.
Councilor Hensley,
Here.
Councilor Vigil.
Here.
All councilors present and a quorum has been declared.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. The next item on the agenda is we have the agenda approval.
Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I
Okay.
just have a question. We're going to remove the voting of the appointment, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Holly. Excuse me. I'd like to amend my motion to approve the agenda with the board commission business removed.
Second.
Okay. Thank you for that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes. Councilor Vigil,
Yes.
Councilor Hensley,
Yes.
Councilor Griego,
Yes.
Councilor Broyles,
Yes.
Councilor Daniel,
Yes.
Councilor Carson,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is citizen comments. This is the portion of the agenda to where we give citizens an opportunity to make comments. We do ask that you keep your comments to within 3 minutes. If you are still talking at the 3-minute mark, we will politely ask you to wrap up your comments at that particular time. Ms. Martinez, will you please let all the attendees give them instructions of how to raise their hands so that they can be recognized to participate on this portion of the agenda?
Yes, sir. If you are on the Zoom app, there's a raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen. Click that and it'll let me know you want to speak. If you're on the telephone, you'll dial *9.
Okay. I see only 4 attendees in the attendee box right now, and I don't see any hands raised at this time, and I see a couple of people who may be participating on the agenda a little bit later. So since I don't see any hands, and Ms. Martinez, could you please confirm that you don't see any hands as well before I close down this portion of the agenda?
Yes, sir. I do not see anybody raising their hand.
Okay. All right, so we're going to now close this section of the agenda and move on down to consent calendar A.
Mayor, I approve consent calendar A.
Okay, good. Councilor Griego, I see your hand raised.
Second. I thought we were supposed to raise our hands.
Okay,
Well, Mr. Grego, to inform you, usually for this, we never raise our hands, but for the other items, we do. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. It's good to be brought up.
all righty. You all make me want to say if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so let's go ahead. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's take a vote, please, Ms. Martinez.
Okay. Councilor Carson,
Yes.
Councilor Griego,
Yes.
Councilor Daniel,
Yes.
Councilor Hensley,
Yes.
Councilor Vigil,
Yes.
Councilor Broyles,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, great. Which brings us down to the next item on the agenda, a presentation from an outside agency, outside funding report from the Bicycle Coalition, and I believe I saw Grantley over there in the attendees. Can you bring Grantley in so that he can give us an update? And Grantley, are you by yourself tonight, or do you want us to bring someone else in with you?
It's just me.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for giving me a little chance to talk tonight. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, which is a new.
Lost you.
Can you hear me?
Grantley, yeah, could you start over from the beginning if you don't mind?
Yeah. Sorry about my connection. Yeah, I'm Grantley Showalter, and I'm with the Alamosa Bicycle Coalition. We're a new nonprofit here in Alamosa. So first I'll tell you kind of what the mission statement is, kind of what we're doing, and how we've adapted this year to some of the COVID-19 restrictions. So yeah, first of all, our mission is to increase equitable access to bicycles and safe bicycling skills for youth and adults. And we're doing a lot of different strategies to achieve that. Some examples are refurbishing old bikes for low-income youth and adults with high needs for dependable transportation, maintaining an inventory of cycling safety equipment such as helmets, lights, locks, that sort of thing, to make sure people have safety equipment while they're riding. We are also sponsoring cycling safety and basic repair building events in our community, in our own shop, and with partner organizations all over Alamosa. We're offering simple bike repair pop-up sites at different community events, that sort of thing. We have a multi-session build-to-own type class, an Earn a Bike program. And another example is providing our workspace to the public, which has tools, bikes and parts, different things that people can come in, learn and use as they work on their own bikes. So the people working with me at the Bicycle Coalition have known that bicycling opens important transportation, recreation, and health opportunities that are lacking to many people, especially people in high poverty areas where there's no public transportation. We do have a bus in the valley, but bicycling often fills in the gaps that still exist. Yeah, so having access to reliable bicycles allows people to meet often just basic needs such as getting to work, getting to school, making it to appointments. Some of our goals are to open greater cycling opportunities related to benefits, physical benefits, socio-emotional benefits, economic benefits, all sorts of things that reliable bicycles can bring to our community. So we're working on both opening these up to adults as well as youth in our community, and trying to remove barriers of entry, such as cost of participation, money, that kind of thing, making sure anyone can participate, anyone can get a bike if they need a bike. So that's kind of some of our strategies. So what we've been doing, we just incorporated as a nonprofit a year ago, actually not even a year yet. It's only been about 8 months or so. So it was kind of right in the middle of the summer when COVID was already in full swing. We were able to start renting a little shop location. I don't know if people know where Hobbytown is, downtown in Alamosa. We're renting their back room from them. They've been really supportive and helpful for us. So we have a nice little shop set up there, and we've received a lot of old bikes donated. The city has made a big donation of old bikes from ones that have been picked up around the city. Adams State has also made a big donation of bikes, and just individuals have been really helpful in donating bikes to make our programs run. And so we've been able to run our first Earn a Bike program in the fall, as COVID was really starting to get bad in October and November, we kind of slowed things down, but we were able to still provide the shop space for individuals, one person at a time, to do a lot of education, teaching people how to work on their own bikes, basic stuff like how to patch a flat tire, that sort of thing, as well as a bit more complicated things for people who really wanted to get into the details. And then also working with different nonprofits, including La Puente, and making sure people who need a bike for transportation can get one, and not having any barriers to that, like making someone pay for it. So that's kind of what we've been doing this winter. And then looking forward, we're excited to be opening up for, we have an event every Monday evening, Mechanic Mondays. It's just open to the public. Anyone can bring their bike by. And we have a mechanic present who will help kind of teach people what they need to know, or at least kind of guide them in the right direction on working on their own bike, or working on one of the donated bikes, getting them up to speed so we can use them for one of our programs, or give them to a person in need. And then also partnering with different organizations around town, including the Boys and Girls Club and SLV Health, to provide bike education, teaching kids how to bike safely, how to use their gears, that sort of thing. Really excited about really promoting bike use among kids. I think it's a great activity for people to take care of their health, as well as get around town, get to school, get to wherever you need to go. So that's what we're doing. We're also doing a community-wide bike drive, so people are encouraged or welcome to donate old bikes that you have laying around that you're not using anymore to the Bike Coalition, and we will put them to good use, either take them apart and use the parts, or fix them up and use them for one of our programs. So yeah, that's kind of my little spiel about the Bike Coalition. Yeah, if people have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Sure. Thank you so much, Grantley. So what I'm going to do is council members are going to ask you some questions in the order in which I see their hands raised. We have Councilor Hensley, followed by Councilor Vigil, followed by Councilor Daniel. Something changed.
I just took my hand down because I thought you were calling on me.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Hensley.
No worries. So Grantley, this is awesome. I somehow must have missed the memo or something about this. I had no idea this was going on. And so I am so appreciative that you shared this information. It sounds really, really exciting. And so I'm looking forward to, obviously I would assume COVID was a bit of a challenge to sort of start off in the middle of COVID, but hopefully things now will just really continue to grow for you and the coalition. And I'll definitely come by and say hi and welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, COVID was definitely a challenge, but things are growing. People are starting to get to know what we're doing and having great ideas of how we can help the community out, what different needs are in the community, and how we can help support that. So glad to be here, and I'm glad you, glad you're here too.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hensley. Councilor Vigil, followed by Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I want to echo what Ms. Hensley said. Grantley, thank you for filling a need in our community. And I really appreciate and like the empowerment piece where you're empowering people to get a bike and then learn how to do its upkeep and that. I guess I had two questions for you. Could you explain a little bit more about how one earns a bike and gets to keep it? Do they have to bring it back, or is it theirs for forever? What does that look like? And do you have any social media or something like that so we can get this out to people in town so more people know about it? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this question, Jan, or Mr. Vigil. Yeah, we have a couple different ways that people can get a bike through us. One is if we have bikes available that are already in good condition, sometimes we just sell them as is. So people can just, buy a used bike from us that way. Then we have the Earn a Bike program, which is a 6-week class of classes, one class a week. And we go over all different parts of the bike, teaching about, how to maintain your brakes, how to maintain your gears, you know, what to do if your wheel is rubbing, that kind of thing, over the 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, each participant gets to keep a bike that they've kind of been, you know, learning these different skills on. And then we also have the program partnered with La Puente and some other organizations where if you need a bike, if you just need something to get around town on as a means of transportation, you don't have to do any classes, you don't have to do any pay any fee or anything. You can just get one. Often those bikes are not, you know, not as high quality, but they are something that definitely works. You know, it'll get you from point A to point B, that sort of thing, because we believe it is important. You know, people deserve, you know, to be able to get around if they need to. So,
How about,
and then your second question about social media. Yeah, we have a Facebook page, Alamosa Bicycle Coalition, and an Instagram, Alamosa Bicycle Coalition as well. I don't know exactly how I can, maybe I don't know if there's a chat that I could put those in, or I could send them to someone at the city who could then distribute them. But you can also just look it up on Google as well.
perfect. Thank you, Grantley.
Thank you, Councilor Vigil. Okay, up next, we have Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. Grantley, thank you so much. I remember when this was like a little vision for you all and having those first conversations. So congratulations on all of the work. Very exciting, very exciting. So my question is, if we have bikes that we could donate to the coalition, do we take them to Hobbytown? Do we connect through Facebook? How do we get donations to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So far it's just mostly a volunteer run organization. I'm also working part-time as a contracted employee. So we do have some shop hours there, but mostly I would say, yeah, if you want to take them to Hobbytown, if it's Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, I'll be in the back room. If not, they're really helpful about just, you know, showing people where to drop off bikes for me, and then I can get them at a later point. Yeah, you can definitely reach out through Facebook or Instagram or my phone number, and we can arrange a meeting that I can come and pick them up, or I can meet you somewhere to drop them off as well. And I can make sure that's available, maybe on the Facebook page, or I can send it to someone at the city.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Grantley, and thank you for this work. I think this is so needed, especially the safety. My work with community corrections and trying to help people understand the rules of traffic, I just get nervous about adults, myself, like everyone learning. And so it is, thank you for doing that and sharing that with our community.
Yeah, I mean, I just like working with bikes, so this is a really fun thing for me to be able to do, and it's really exciting. And I just want to say thanks to everyone tonight for listening and giving me a chance to talk a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for your work. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other hands raised at this time, so I'll just wrap it up. Grantley, once again, thank you for the presentation and informing us of the things that the coalition does in the community. And I'm so glad to hear about Mechanic Mondays, because now that the weather is getting better, I'll start riding my bike, and I may need to stop by there one Monday. So thank you for sharing that helpful information with everyone. Have a good night. Take care. All righty. Thank you. All right, Council, that's going to bring us on down on our agenda. We had to remove item B, Alamosa Housing Authority Board appointment. We're going to postpone that to another meeting. So that's going to bring us on down to, I believe, item C on the agenda, business brought forward by city staff, information technology, a motion authorizing the upgrade of the entire AV system in council chamber not to exceed $60,000.
Thank you, Mayor. So City Council's had a few different items come before you these last few months. First was when we had CARES funding, we thought that we could use the CARES funding in order to do this exact project. But when we did go out to bids, the bids were over, I think, 200,000. So there was no way that that was an appropriate bid for the type of work that we needed. So even though council had authorized this project using CARES funding, we did not move it forward because we were not able to solicit bids that were appropriate. Shortly after that, our video system, or portions of our video system, failed. And so we did have a budget amendment to allow for us to do repairs to that system. Now that we know that we are slated to get funding through the APR and that this would be an eligible project that council was supportive of in the past, we wanted to bring it back before you. So it is different than the emergency video fixing that we had to do, and Jim could probably word it much more eloquently. This is related a little bit more to the audio that obviously still ties into the video. And so one of the reasons council was approving this last year with CARES funding was this would allow for us to not only just update the audio, which is needed, but to allow it to be more flexible on creating social distancing if we needed that, as well as with the voting abilities to social distance as well. And so this would bring the remaining parts of the system completely up to date, make sure that we can social distance if we needed to, and just really pretty much ties it all together. Jim was successful in getting very appropriate bids this time, and we feel we can get the project done for less than 60,000. So if authorized tonight, we would obviously come back with a budget amendment at some point in the future, with this being tagged to use the APR funds. They are ARP funds. And with that, Jim and I are available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Appreciate that. So council, I'll recognize any questions or concerns or motions by looking at the hands in the panelist panel. I see Councilor Broyles, followed by
I was
Councilor.
going to ask, how long will this system last then? Is it going to be 5 years?
With any electronic system, we expect 5 years minimum. This current system we've gotten 10 years out of. We would hope that we could get another 10 years out of this system.
So you're saying 15 years?
No, I'm saying 10 years is what we would expect overall. 5
Somewhere
years is what
5
is,
and 10.
yeah, 5 and 10.
Okay, did I answer your question, Mr. Broyles, Councilor Broyles?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you, Jim and Heather. I so appreciate the context because I was like, I felt like we did this. And so it was really nice to hear. And so I'm sorry that it didn't work out before, but I appreciate the fact that you didn't take unrealistic bids. So thank you for managing those funds wisely and then doing this again. So I'm 100% in support of this, but I just wanted to say thank you for bringing it back and thank you for explaining the context because it was helpful to me.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Councilor Griego.
Mayor, I didn't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion if nobody else has any other questions.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
If
Go ahead.
not, I'll go ahead and make the motion to authorize the upgrade of the entire AV not to exceed $60,000.
Councilor Hensley. Okay, we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Councilor Carson,
Yes.
Councilor Daniel,
Yes.
Councilor Broyles,
Yes.
Councilor Griego,
Yes.
Councilor Hensley,
Yes.
Councilor Behill.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Awesome. Good job. All right, that brings us now to the next item on the agenda. The first reading of ordinance number 4-2021, establishing a standard for culpable mental states for ordinance violations. I am so glad that our city attorney is on the Zoom call because I think all of us are wondering what all that means. So we'll let you just explain all of this to us.
Just vote
All right.
yes. Very good. So Heather gave me a heads up that I may have written the council communication a little bit too much for lawyers.
Lawyery.
Too lawyerly. So let me just start. Well, basically, this applies to our Chapter 11 ordinance issues. And Chapter 11 is what you might call our criminal ordinances. So these are the things that you see in municipal court all the time, as opposed to ordinances like our land use code and things like that. So this, what you find in criminal ordinances is that some crimes are just strict liability crimes. If you do the action that's prohibited, you are guilty of violating the ordinance. Whether you intended to or had some sort of malicious intent or not, you're guilty. Other crimes require a certain degree of conscious effort on the part of the violator to actually be held guilty. So you have to knowingly do the act prohibited. You have to knowingly give false information to a 911 operator. You have to recklessly drive your vehicle in a way that endangers others, that kind of thing. And so when you look at our code, we have a number of ordinances that don't specify any particular mental state. We have a number of ordinances that specify knowingly or recklessly or willfully as mental states. But nowhere do we have any, and I'll get to you, Councilor Carson, in a second, nowhere do we have anything that looks like what the state criminal code has that tells you what to do about that. And this came up most recently in a case we had in municipal court with a car club that was engaging in displays of speed or power, revving their engines, kind of jockeying back and forth. And one of our officers wanted to pull over an instigator in that incident and had the lights and siren going. And another participant in the car club moved over from the right lane into the left lane to block the officer from getting where he needed to go, causing the officer to drive on the shoulder to get around that car. And the judge found the blocking person not guilty, saying, yeah, you said you thought you were being pulled over, and so you went left because that was the closest way to get off the highway. Well, the model traffic code says you got to free up the left lane and pull to the right as far as possible when approached by an emergency vehicle. So it doesn't matter whether you thought you were being pulled over and wanted to go left. The rule is you go right. Officers know that. They're trying to get somewhere. They expect the left lane to be free. But the judge kind of read in a specific intent portion to that statute, which just isn't there. The state code, state statute deals with that kind of situation very readily and tells you what to do. If you don't have any particular mental state specified in an ordinance, that means you don't need one. It's a strict liability ordinance. If you got to move right and you move left instead, you're guilty of violating the ordinance. So that's what gave rise to this. In the context of doing an appeal, I looked up that state statute and thought that we needed one for ourselves. It does clean up a few other things that were also in that same general area of the state provisions, in terms of specifying that if there's a mental, that if there's an affirmative defense that's raised, then the prosecution, which always has the burden of proof in any criminal case, that the prosecution carries the requirement to prove the case, that the prosecution then has to prove that the affirmative defense does not apply, or that the facts don't support the affirmative defense. So that burden of this statute makes clear, or this ordinance makes clear, similar to state statute, that when an affirmative defense appears, the burden on the prosecution is to address that affirmative defense as well. It's not a burden on the part of the defendant to prove that the affirmative defense does apply. It's the burden on the prosecution to prove that it does not, as soon as there's plausible evidence introduced by the defendant. So that's what this is trying to do in a nutshell. I did point out in the council communication that the state also has a very long and involved section on affirmative defenses that I don't think we need. We rarely see them in municipal court. They are all not only codified in state statute, but they are also all common law affirmative defenses, meaning they don't have to be in statute to be applicable. You can point to case law that says, hey, I was justified in assaulting this person because they came after me with a knife first or something like that. And you've got the self-defense, affirmative defense. So it's my opinion, we don't need that, but I thought since I was finding things in the state statute that we don't have that might be applicable, I would just raise that for council's attention. If any of you wanted to explore that further. I do not, but I'm willing to.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sweets. I appreciate that. So I'll turn it back over to council for any questions or comments and or a motion. Councilor Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe everything Eric said, but I also think it's confusing. So I just want to ask a couple of questions. The first is that, are you suggesting, Eric, that we do delete section 3 defining affirmative offenses, even though that was in the ordinance that you proposed, because we don't need it and it was quite involved?
No.
No. Okay.
I do like section 3 that we have. If you think that's involved, you should read the stuff from state statute that I stuck as background material. So
I did read that and I did not like it, by the way,
yeah,
but yes.
I don't like that either. So that's what, when I said it was long and involved, I was talking about that stuff that's in the background material. I think that the stuff that we have in section 3 is actually quite useful, and it would be my recommendation to pass the ordinance with that in it.
Great. And so in the situation that you brought up, how this ordinance would help us is that because the person went left instead of right, and it's standard practice to go right because that is the rule, with this ordinance, there would have been no way for the judge to find that person not guilty. Is that correct? Or not no way, but not the same way he did.
Not the same way he did, right? And in this set of circumstances, should have made clear that the person was guilty.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understood what the outcome for the situation that prompted this would have been. The other thing is, just because I think this has nothing to do with a person's mental state, like if they are competent to stand trial, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
It's a term of a legal art, I guess. When you say culpable mental state, it means, do you have to be really intending to do what you did, and what level of intention is required, so that it becomes an element of the crime itself. You can't accidentally damage a building and be held responsible for injury to property if the injury to property ordinance says you have to intentionally or willfully damage the building. So if you just back up into it with your car because you got distracted, you're not guilty. That kind of thing.
Yes. So I just wanted, I think sometimes when people see mental states, regardless of what the word before is, that they think competency instead of the way we're talking about it here. And so I just want to make sure that was clear. So thank you for answering all of my questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Councilor Rawls. I thought I saw more hands raised and they disappeared. So Councilor Rawls.
Hey, you're saying this makes it more clear in prosecuting a case? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, I am saying that. And what it does is similar to the way the state statutes are worded, makes clear how it is that the court is supposed to apply these various mental state or intentionality elements of an ordinance.
Okay, I think you have a typo on this.
I wouldn't be surprised.
On page 2 under C, effective ignorance, A, it says it negatives the existence of a particular, are you trying to say it negates?
Well, I will tell you that that is me cribbing from the state statute. So I think it's the same word. That's the word the state statute used, but we can use negates. That's fine with me.
I don't understand what that means. I guess that was my question.
Negates.
Negates, okay.
So Counselor Suizo, I believe
Sounds pretty complicated, but I think,
that means.
I didn't find it yet. It's on 2C.
yes, page 2,
Oh, page 2. Okay.
under the C paragraph,
Uh-huh.
under 1, it's a little a.
Yep. I like negates better, so I would take that to heart and translate or change that negatives to negates for your second reading. Be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, it sounds complicated, but if it's going to make life easier, I understand.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Brawls. Counselor Carson. You're muted, Counselor Carson.
I was going to make a motion if you guys are ready.
Okay, thank you.
I move that I lost my agenda though, so I don't have it worded if somebody else wants to make the motion real quick. Because I just switched computers and I lost my agenda.
Can someone go ahead and finish up Counselor Grego? You're muted, Counselor Grego.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I'll make the motion to pass on first reading ordinance number 4-2021 and set it for a public hearing on, is it May 4th? At 7 o'clock, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, at 7 o'clock or soon thereafter.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Okay. Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Vigil,
Yes.
Counselor Hensley,
Yes.
Counselor Broyles,
Yes,
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Griego,
Yes,
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Broyles.
yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Councilor Suizo, for explaining that to us. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a selection of pieces for the 5th annual Artscape Art on Loan program. I believe that's going to be you, Ms. Brooks.
Hey, just a heads up, I don't know if it matters, but I didn't vote that last vote. Councilor Broyles voted twice. So just so you guys know for the record, I wasn't asked to vote.
Okay, let's go ahead and get that cleared up.
And I don't know if that matters or not, but I wasn't asked to vote.
It matters. It matters. Thank you, Councilor Carson. Sorry about that. Ms. Martinez?
Do you want me to just do it all over again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Griego,
yes,
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Broyles,
Yes,
Counselor Hensley,
Yes.
Counselor Vigil,
Yes.
Counselor Carson.
I abstained. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I'm kidding.
The motion carried unanimously.
Okay, what a night. All righty. Okay, Ms. Brooks, we're ready for the Artscape selection of pieces on loan program.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I feel like my item is much easier to understand than the city attorney's, so this will be a little bit more fun. We'll look at some art. Just as a reminder, we kicked this off way back in 2017. It's been an extremely positive program through grants, donations, sponsorships. When we sell a piece, we get to get 20% of it. those types of things. We have raised $25,175. And so in addition to the funding that council contributes annually, that has helped us really grow the program and expand it. This year, we have received 58 submissions. And as a reminder, once we get those submissions, the art committee takes a first look at them to make sure that they are of the right materials to be outdoors, that they're not going to harm somebody, such as if there's a bunch of pointy things and those types of things. So they make sure that it's safe, it's durable, those types of things. And then we have a community art jury that ranks the pieces. And then we take that information and we bring to you guys the top 20. Now we're only going to install 15, but as we know, sometimes pieces withdraw at the last minute. So this allows us to have those other pieces ready to go and lined up to substitute in if we need that. We are doing the full art festival this weekend. We're announcing that. We were able to announce it at the Main Street committee this week. They're very excited. The more activities we can be doing, the better. And a majority of this is outdoors. So even though we're getting better and better as far as numbers, it's still nice that a majority of this is outdoors. And so in addition to swapping out the outdoor work, we have the artist reception, which we'll be holding near Society Hall. We also have Art Walk, which is on Friday and Saturday. Society Hall is partnering with us. They're doing their fundraiser, which has the outdoor bands on Friday night and Saturday night. The farmers market is going to be that Saturday. We're going to have, signs and stuff painted on the sidewalk to help people know where to go and really enjoy it. And we will be having some chalk stuff going on, as well as the Salida Circus will be there to create a fun atmosphere and some outdoor bands. So we're really excited about it, and we're glad to be able to put on the full thing. So at this point, let me show you the actual artwork. So these are in how they were ranked. So 1 through 15 are the ones we will most likely have. This first one would be a bronze by Amias. This is wood, and it's from an artist that we have actually not shown yet. This is a bronze with a dog and a ball. And then we do have another piece from Herberto, which would be a bronze. This is a still sculpture, and I believe this is Herberto's daughter, Bianca. This is a steel structure. This is a mix of glazed ceramic, steel, cement backboard. This is a stained glass mosaic and clay sculpture with a metal base. This is still an outdoor sculpture quarry clay. This is actually a project from ASU art students, and they do light up at night. So there's another side to these from a interest perspective. This is steel and some other stuff. This is stainless steel. Another piece from Kasha, ceramic sculpture. I'm not sure if you follow her on Facebook, but these are, there's a lot of depth and detail. It's just not flat glass. This is a steel piece. And number 15 is another, we have some pets this year. Another one of a dog and its owner. And this is metal. And then the 5 pieces in case one of these pull out. This is marble. And steel. Sue has a piece currently, so she's as a backup, another totem pole. And Pavia currently has had some in our, she's on 2 years now of having pieces in our show. And the 5th one is out of Springfield with a very Western theme.
What's our cap?
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
What's our spending cap? 15,000?
Well, we're not buying them tonight. This is just to authorize the pieces that we're going to place in the show.
Okay. So Ms. Brooks, did you finish that, going through that before I see a couple of hands. I see Councilor Grego had a comment. Are you still?
No,
talking?
I'm done. I'm done.
All right, Councilor Grego.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a comment on, you said on that college piece, is there 5 pieces that light up, or how does that work?
So Dana, who is the professor, has worked with these students, and he's also on the art committee. So he's very aware of what can be done and not done. So they will not be wired. So I'm imagining they're going to do something that is solar related. And so it looks like there's 6.
My concern wasn't just the lighting up, is the amount of pieces. How would you display them?
Well, so we do have a few locations that can handle this. If you look at 6th and San Juan, where that building is set back, or if you look in front of SLV Federal Bank, where we've put some larger ones. So we would pick one of those locations.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
Okay, Councilor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank the art committee. And this is our 5th year. It's like crazy. I'm glad that we're starting to now see people return and come back. And we're seeing folks who we've chosen their art before, who we've bought their art before, come back. I like how we have new artists. Plus, I think this is the first time we have something from the university.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty neat. So we're connecting with local artists, plus returnees, plus new people. I think it's just really great. And I'll always say this when we talk about this every year at this time, is I also want to thank Councilor Grego. I think I know him, and I believe Humberto were the ones who brought this idea to Heather. And so I just really appreciate you, Mr. Grego, for doing that, because this is a great thing that we have. Plus, it's a great way to get tourism and people stopping in downtown, walking around, shopping, and checking out the art. So thank you very much for this idea.
One comment, Mayor, if I make, all I did was bring the seed, and it was Heather and her group was the water the seed, and it bloomed. So I appreciate what they've done and how they've taken it and ran with it. So great job with them.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you so very much. Ms. Brooks, do you need any action from us tonight?
If we can just have a motion authorizing the selection of those 20 art pieces, that would be perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So moved.
Good. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Ms. Martinez, will you please take the vote?
Yes, sir. Mayor Coleman,
Yes.
Councilor Daniel,
Yes.
Councilor Broyles,
Yes.
Councilor Vigil,
Yes.
Councilor Hensley,
Yes.
Councilor Griego,
Yes.
Councilor Carson.
Yes.
The motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. And thank you all for who participated. Appreciate it. Okay, so that brings us to the next item on the agenda, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5-2021, an ordinance amending the established pay plan for city officers and employees in accordance with Article 3, Section 11 of the Charter and as referred to in Section 15-2 of the Code of Ordinances concerning personnel rules and regulations and pay plan for city officers and employees.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say something about how this issue was easier than the city attorneys as well, but then I thought most of mine are, so maybe I'll just point out if it's ever more challenging in the future instead of comment sometime.
All right.
So this is a fairly straightforward issue. We have had discussions about reorganizing the city in order to be more effective from a workload perspective, both in public works, but also in our development services area. And creating this development services director position will allow us to really continue on our path of implementing the comprehensive plan, the downtown plan, and the soon to come housing plan. It will allow for more grant writing, coordination with community partners, which is going to be required to move some of these plans forward, and really just be more responsive and available for developers and to help in those areas. And so that's what that position will do. It also then allows our public works director, who we have been growing those capital projects coming out of our traditional public works side, including the dedicated street sales tax for the streets. Coordination with utilities is becoming a little more complicated. So there's just a lot going on that this will help free up the public works director to be more effective and also go after more grants and those types of things as well. So we're excited about it. I think this workload has been building for a while. I can remember talking all the way back when Pat Steenberg was the public works director and how could we divide up some of this workload. The other area that the development services director will help is I was doing some of the grant writing and I was doing a little bit on some of the plans, usually helping Deacon. This will also allow me to focus in some of those areas that we haven't been able to engage as much as well in the community. And so I think overall, this is a great move for us to be more responsive to where this community really wants us to be involved. And it places the development services director at a grade 13. And as you know, though, we are getting a market analysis done and it may confirm that's the correct location, or it could indicate that it needs to be placed at a grade 14, but we'll cross those bridges when the market survey is complete.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brooks. So what I'll do right now is I'll open up a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 5-2021, an ordinance amending the established pay plan for city officers and employees in accordance with Article 3, Section 11 of the Charter and as referred to in Section 15-2 of the Code of Ordinances concerning personnel rules and regulations and pay plan for city officers and employees. Ms. Martinez, will you please give instructions to the attendees of how to raise their hand so we can identify them if they choose to participate in this public hearing?
Yes, sir. If you're on the Zoom app, you can use the raise your hand feature by clicking that button. If you're on the telephone, you'll dial *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, I'm looking at the list of attendees we have right here, and I don't see any hands raised. Ms. Martinez, do you?
I do not, sir.
So being that I don't see any hands raised at this time, I would now close the public hearing and bring this back to council for comments and our motion. Councilor Vigil?
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to be very upfront with everybody. I got a phone call about this today. A concerned constituent said that we should not go ahead with this, that it's a waste of money, and we could use that money in other areas like streets and roads and sidewalks and that type of stuff. So I said I would bring that up to you all. And I wanted to just ask a clarifying question, Heather. So this services director, and then plus we also made a new position, or we added a position into Public Works, correct? Like a CSI or something?
No. So what's before you tonight is we are splitting off duties away from the Public Works Director to put them under a new position, which is the Development Services Director. We didn't create any other positions in Public Works.
I think Councilor Vigil may be talking about the GIS person, but that's a position that had been pre-existing and was actually vacant for a number of years, I think, before we finally got that filled. But that's a position that had been existing for a long time. It used to be Jeanette Luttrell.
Thank you, Eric. And that's what I was thinking about.
And then Cliff.
But between Jeanette and Cliff, it was vacant for quite a while.
Okay.
Actually, it was Deacon, I think, for a while too. But between Jeanette and Deacon, it was vacant for quite a while.
In short, there's no new position.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we're open for a motion. Councilor Daniel?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve, excuse me, sorry. I move that we approve ordinance number 5-2021 on second reading, amending the employee pay plan.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Well, it's good to see that the city is being proactive in filling positions and spreading the workload in order for us to be effective and efficient. And I appreciate the city manager and her efforts of making sure that we do this. So Ms. Martinez, will you please take a vote?
Yes, sir. Counselor Carson?
No.
Counselor Hensley?
Yes.
Counselor Vigil?
Yes.
Counselor Broyles?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Griego?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
The motion carried 6-1 with Counselor Carson casting the no vote.
Thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, committee reports. Do we have any council members who have any committee reporters? If so, please raise your hand and I will recognize you in the order in which I see your hands. I only see one hand right now, and that's Counselor Hensley.
All right, I got 4 of them. So I'll try not to take too long. So we'll start off with the marketing board. And with that, it's always the fun part of the year when we get to give away money. And so we did give away $45,000 to 19 of the applicants. There was quite a few more than that. For over 90,000 was the request. But we gave away 45,000 to different events. The focus really was on the idea of marketing for those events. And so they've each year we've continued to really sort of clean up or make it clearer in regards to what this funding goes towards. So that was really good. I think you've seen all the signs up and down the streets for National Park Month, and obviously with the sand dunes. So that's been really exciting. There is an RFP right now for the demolition of the motorway. So we're back on track to having that happen. And the plan obviously is once that is that it'll be made into a parking lot for RV parking as well as having sort of some beautification on there, that type of thing. So that's pretty exciting. Everything is really showing towards great hotel stays, things like that. So anyway, from a marketing board, really good. Then I move on and I was at the tree board, and at the tree board, lots of fun stuff there. So we had the first time for the grant, where it's similar to the sidewalk grant, where if you put in, the city will pay for part of the tree to have a tree to help beautify. And so with that, because it's so new, we didn't, we had some applicants, they were great applicants, but we've opened it up for a little bit longer since we still actually didn't fill the total amount that could have been filled. So hopefully we'll have a few more applicants there. Blanca Vista, there's 29 trees. On the 24th, the Riparian Park's gonna get some trees. The Rio Grande Headwaters Restoration project is getting 250 to 300 seedling trees. So anyway, lots of fun stuff in the tree world. Then I went to the golf board. And so at the golf board, oh my gosh, things are so exciting. They're booming. It has been crazy busy. And so with that, oh, my computer just shut down. So what we have there is in the last month, $80,000 in sales in regards to people golfing. It's up 55.4% over last year. On the 11th, they had a record of 208 rounds in play. So that set a record. They're looking at potentially having 300 rounds at different times in the summer. They've sold $2,000 in lessons already, which again, really remarkable. They're expecting to have a very busy season. They have their first tournament coming up next Saturday, which is the ASU Grizzly Club Scramble. But anyway, lots of fun stuff there. So that's been exciting as well. And then the last board, so sorry, I gotta pull out my different notes. Okay, so my last board I was on was the Main Street Advisory Committee. And again, great energy. It's just really neat. I think things are really coming around in regards to, it being a tough year, but all the committees I were on was a lot of positive news. Businesses seem to be really coming back, doing well. The biggest issue or challenge is employment. Everybody is looking for people to work. And obviously those are challenging times with, some of the way things are being funding and things like that right now. So obviously some places are even having to close down different hours earlier, things like that. They just don't have enough employment. So that's been the challenge. We do have some new businesses coming into town. So the JCPenney is going to be, was bought and a new business will be opening there. Colorado Sports is going to have a new appliance store. Thai Hut has moved to Restorative Justice where Luke Yoder is. So again, a lot of different things there. And so yeah, and then what's exciting is starting to announce different activities that are going to happen in the city. So such as the Oktoberfest is as a go, 4th of July, tons of exciting stuff that's going to happen for 4th of July. But anyway, everything seems to be really going forward. So sorry, I had 4 reports, so try to do it quickly.
No, that's an awesome update, Councilor Hensley, and thank you for the positive energy. I don't know if anyone had any comments or questions for you before we go to Councilor Griego.
I had one, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Liz, on the motorway building, how much money are they allowing to bring it down? As far as is there a range of how much? Because you send out for RFPs. Is there a range of where they have to?
You know what? I don't remember there being a range. I think we kind of have a ballpark of where it'll land. And so obviously, because we had already an approved one from, gosh, was it a year ago, a year and a half ago, but everything changed because of COVID. All the prices, expenses, and everything have really changed. But one of the things is we really made it much tighter in regards to the RFP. We have a new member on our board and she has a lot of expertise in that. So honestly, it's going to even be a stronger RFP process. So we're real excited about that. I did forget one thing too, is the wayfinding on the marketing board, which is actually kind of a city thing, is lots of the signs and stuff for the wayfinding are being ordered. So we're starting to do some of that downtown stuff.
Great. Good. Any other questions, Councilor Hensley, before I go to Councilor Griego? Anyone? Great reports. Lots of energy, Councilor Hensley.
And Charlie, I will get back to you. I'll look to see if there is some dollars and I will give you an update and I'll send it to Heather so she can send it to everybody.
Good deal.
Sounds good. Councilor Griego, you're up next.
Thank you, Mayor. And I try to be as enthusiastic as Councilor Hensley. Boy, you're doing a lot of work. We did have our community recreation board meeting, and I'll just point out to some of the parts of it. And the mayor's representative there, and so is Heather. So if you guys want to jump in there and say something, feel free. We got some updates on the ranch conservation easement, RFPs, tennis, and the tennis courts are going to get refurbished. The one over at Boyd for people to play pickleball, those are going to be turned into some pickleball courts, and I think they'll still be able to play tennis on those. We talked about grants, and we're betting 130 in grants. We went after a Centennial grant, and I think we were able to get 2 out of the 13 grants. Heather, am I saying that right? You know, they gave out 13 grants. Go ahead.
So there was 13 applicants and
Oh,
only
applicants.
2 got awarded, and we were one of the 2.
Yeah.
And it
So-
wasn't the Centennial. The Centennial is the big one. This is the grant that if we are successful here, it might tie into the big one in the future.
Oh, good. So those, Andy and his group are doing a great job. We also had an update on the noxious wheat. We also got a grant there for $9,000. And then we also got an update that is Councilor Hensley says on the golf club, they're doing really good. And I guess the restaurant's really doing good. So those are some of the items. We had a really good meeting and good attendance. So I don't know if Mayor, if you want to say something, or City Manager, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Grego. I'll let Ms. Brooks see if there's something she wants to cover, because I think you covered just about everything. There was also the update on the Monta Azul Park, and also I believe the update on the improvement on Blanca Vista. But Councilor Grego, thank you so very much. The cool thing about being on this board with Ms. Brooks and Councilor Grego is that they pretty much cover everything. So it's awesome. Great job. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. I don't see any other hands raised at this particular moment for committee reports. So we'll move on down the agenda to staff announcements.
Well, Mayor, tonight we do not have any staff announcements.
Oh, that's a first. Wow. That's awesome. Okay. We will move on down the agenda. The council comments. Okay. All right. And I'll recognize the council comments in the hands that we see raised here. Councilor Daniel, you're up, followed by Councilor Brawls, followed by Councilor Vigil, followed by Councilor Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of things. The first is I was really excited to attend the Youth of the Year event for the Boys and Girls Club yesterday morning, and it went so well. And the mayor did a great speech and a rousing song of "If You're Happy and You Know It." So thank you for waking us up at 7 in the morning. That was really awesome. I also did speak with Charlotte Ladoni, and she reminded me that we hadn't had an update from the Sharps program in a while. And so Holly and Heather, I'm wondering if we could reach out to her the next time we have a place on our agenda for the syringe exchange and all of the other things Sharp and AHEC are doing. I think it would be really good for the city to know that, well, everyone, but us too. And then I just really wanted to say thank you to Heather. It was really kind of fun doing the video around our homelessness concerns and meeting that. And so I wanted to say I appreciate the time that she spent with me to get that done, and thank everyone for the positive comments that you've shared with me. Or I haven't gotten any negative questions or anything like that yet, but if there are any, I'm happy to answer questions or anything like that if people have those. So just want to throw that out there if people would like to have conversations about some of the information that we presented. The last is, I think you all know that I am an aunt. And many of you may know about Flat Stanley. Well, this is Flat Layla, and she was sent to me. So my niece's name is Layla. She was sent to me, and if we were meeting in person, I would have brought Flat Layla to sit in council chambers with us tonight and taken a picture of her for the event. So what I'm asking is if we can all take a picture with Flat Layla with me. I'm going to do a screen share real quick, so that way I can send this back to Layla for her report. So I'm going to do that really quick unless anyone has major concerns about that. Okay, so I'll do that super fast.
You're welcome, Layla. So go ahead, Flat Layla.
Great. Thank you all so much. I will save that and be able to send it back to her for her class project. But if you haven't read Flat Stanley, you should. So thank you very much. Those are all my comments.
Oh, thank you, Counselor Daniel, and thank you for introducing us to Flat Layla first again. Thank you. Good job. Brings us to the next item on the agenda. I mean, next item, but the next person, Counselor Brawls.
I just wanted to point out, in light of what's going on throughout the country, I'm very appreciative to our police force as well as our county law enforcement for keeping our community safe. The number one priority in economic development is a safe community. And I think Alamosa meets that. And I greatly appreciate our law enforcement, what they do. I appreciate their etiquette, their politeness, and their professionalism. So I just want to say thank you to that group of people.
Thank you, Counselor Brawls. Brings us to Counselor Vigil.
Thank you, Mayor. A few concerns I've gotten from constituents is the deer are out and about and they're starting to wreak havoc on people's yards and their plants and their flowers and that. If we could please bring up that discussion again and get something done, I'd really appreciate that. If we could bring it up at a retreat or something, but I'd appreciate that. Also, I sent this in an email to Heather as well, is the intersection of 3rd, right by your house, Ms. Hensley, 3rd and State. People coming out, going east and west, or trying to cross that road there. You have to kind of peek out a little bit because there's cars parked really close to the stop sign. So if we could look at that, maybe study it a little bit, because it is pretty dangerous sometimes, because it's hard to gauge how fast cars are coming down. And then wanted to thank staff, Heather and staff, for the housing discussion that we had a few days ago. I thought that was really productive, and there was some conversations had, and the ball is starting to get rolling on some tough conversations, and I really, really like that, and I'll be a part of that for as long as I'm on here. Also, I don't know if it's up. I don't know if this is open for people of Alamosa County, but this Friday at Sargent schools, they're doing a vaccine clinic for students 16 and up with Pfizer, as the CDC has approved Pfizer vaccinations. And I don't know if you have to call Rio Grande Public Health, but I don't know if it's open just for Rio Grande folks or anybody in the Valley. Ms. Daniel might know more about that, but that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in on the Pfizer, Mayor? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So all of our public health agencies in our communities are working to help our youth who are 16 and 17 get that. So people can go to public health. I don't know if Sargent is limiting who's going there, but all of the public health agencies, so our public health departments have access to that. And Alamosa County is also spreading the word. And so if you have people in other communities, they can outreach their public health departments or call the Alamosa Public Health Department, because I know they know where all of the vaccines are going and where those specific clinics are for those youth. And then many of our other community partners are still doing vaccines with the Moderna. So if they want Pfizer, call public health. If they want Moderna, lots of other opportunities for them to do that.
And if I could just jump back real quick, Mayor, is COVID is not gone. It's still here. It's rising in our valley. My daughter's class was just shut down today for some COVID concerns and that. So just please be vigilant. Thank you.
Okay, I see a couple hands raised, but I think Ms. Brooks may have wanted to interject to make some comments in between that. So I'm just going to call her out so she can respond to something. And then we have Councilor Carson and Councilor Guerrero.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, there's 2 items I wanted to reply on that Mr. Vigil brought up. The first one, in that intersection, it has actually been on our radar, and we've had some discussions several months ago. I think now with the construction on First, the additional traffic that it's seen is really making it more pronounced. And so we are looking at that and identifying what we think are some options. And then the item on the deer is we don't have anything to bring before council. We're making many attempts to connect again with the Department of Wildlife. So we can figure out, you know, when they shot down our proposal, that doesn't really leave very much. And so we need to flesh that out more and find out what's going on, why it was not supported, and if there's some different strategies we need to do. But we're having trouble connecting with the personnel to get a meeting set up. And Chief Anderson's sent some emails, and we're having a bit of a struggle there, but it is still on our radar. And I'm seeing the deer too. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Is there any way that anything like that can be put out on like social media so that the public would know that the city's just not sitting idly by, not doing anything? Because I think the perception sometimes is they think we really have that control when we really don't. I think it might be something we might want to consider putting out there in the media, because I think all of us hear those same concerns.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Carson, followed by Councillor Griego.
So last week I got a couple calls about conditions of the road in my ward, and so I drove around after some work that was done in my house, in front of my house, not in front of my house, but a couple houses down. It was left just a mess. It was left trash. There's a speed bump of gravel in the middle of the road. So I drove around the neighborhood where they complained, and it's just a mess. They did pothole repairs, and they did the, you know, tack and tar or chip seal where they dump the gravel in the pothole, and they did this in that neighborhood all over, and it just looks like crap. There's gravel everywhere. They left half in the hole and half out, and the entire blocks, these entire streets, north and south, east and west, are just trashed, and they're getting worse. I mean, the work that they did in front of my house made such a mess. You know, you're talking in front of La Puente now on State, they did that cut in the street, and there's that pothole of gravel. We've got those all over my ward. And the feeling is, you know, we went and passed this tax for streets, and the money's being spent again on the north. And I know we have a timeline, but again, in reference to the 14th Street section there, we paved about 500 feet of street and the rest didn't get done. And I get it. I understand, Heather. I know this is frustrating, but that's why I voted no earlier, because we're spending more money in public works, and the streets, especially in my ward, look like crap. And I get the public works director has a heavy load. There's a lot to do, but it's really neglected, and it looks worse. And every time they do work, they don't even bring it back up to the neglected standard it was before. It's in really horrible shape. And, you know, if they're going to do pothole repairs, they should at least try and put some of the stuff in the potholes, because as you go, I know it seems ridiculous, but why don't you drive around the neighborhood and there's gravel spread out to both sides of the road. These are paved roads, and you're driving on the road covered with gravel. And I'm not being dramatic. It's like that everywhere, not one street or two streets. The crew went around and did all these repairs, and I'll quote mark repairs, because it just trashes things. And, you know, us voting in a street tax where everybody voted for it, and it still feels like the streets in more northerly wards are being tended to more, you know. And I hate to be a killjoy, but you guys should probably take a drive around and understand what I'm saying, because any of the streets northerly are in much better condition. And I'm even talking the one right there at the hospital, the cross intersection by Excel. That is a horrible alligator street. We saw the crocodiling of that street, and that street's in better shape than a lot of the streets in my ward. And so that's just the, you know, my bone I had to pick tonight is, you know, they go and do these repairs, and it just makes things worse. You can't drive around in a car, and God forbid you're going near the speed limit where that speed bump hits and you're in a low car, you'll hit your car. And so I just would like that addressed somewhat. It seems like those streets are getting, you know, more neglected in a sense. So please have them look at that, or at least try to address some of the repairs. You know, we've talked about the chip seal. It was like $12 a foot that we talked about when we were talking about the paving. They don't ever even attempt that on some of those streets. And I get that they're beyond repair or beyond the possibility of that upkeep, but we should probably address them in a better way than just throwing gravel on them and some tar. Because especially if you're not going to do the whole street, it looks like crap, and the potholes are horrible. So I just needed to vent on that a little bit, because I've had people complain. So I went and drove around, and their complaints were pretty valid.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Councilor Carson. I'm gonna let Ms. Brooks respond. I see her hand
Go
up, and I'm not sure that's what she wanted to raise her hand for. So go ahead, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. I'll offer a little bit of information, and then I see Harry's unmuted himself as well, and he might want to add some information. So I think there's quite a few different things that were brought up that I need to address. The first is, you know, we can get out the study again in regards to how much money has spent on the north versus the south side. Part of the condition of the streets is, since developers build the streets, if you have newer developments, the streets are newer versus streets that have been built in the older neighborhoods. In regards to some of the projects that have been done, I'm not sure if these are the final applications for the potholes, or if there's going to be additional treatment coming up, but it's the same treatment for potholes on the north side and the south side. I've seen them on driving on the north side as well. And so I just think it's important, as we manage perceptions out there, we're not using different materials or filling potholes differently in different parts of our community, and being very straightforward about that. Harry, is there some different stages to come from a pothole repair and then that work that was being done on state?
Yeah, I apologize. My camera's not turning on for me. Yeah, so there's different methods in some of the patching. What we're seeing, because of the conditions of some of the roads on the south side, it's a little bit different of a process. What they do is they put in a asphalt material, and then they put a tack on top of that. And with that tack, then they put a kind of a pea gravel on top, which gives it kind of a gravel appearance. That needs to be worked into the oil. So we leave that for a few days and let the traffic kind of compact and work that in. And what you'll see over the next couple of weeks is the street sweeper cleaning that up. But we need traffic to kind of work that in. And what it does is it builds a stronger base, and it completes a better repair versus just putting an asphalt patch in it. So one of the reasons you see it quite a bit all over the south side is because they really focused on some of the poor conditions on the south side and try to put a bigger effort in over there. So next week or so, you'll see all that swept up and repaired the best we can with it.
And what I'm thinking, Harry, with your explanation, because most lay people probably don't know it's a two-step and what the value is of that two-step. So I'm thinking it would probably, similar to getting something out on social media related to deer, it might be worth getting that information out as well to the public.
Sure, absolutely. We can do that.
And was there anything related to that, any road cuts that were made for that work on state, I believe?
Yeah, the State Avenue is where we put in a new sanitary line. It was kind of the same thing. The contractor did patch it back with just gravel. And as soon as we were able to get our patcher up and running for the season, we went back in and put that material in and put a gravel overlay for a couple days. But if you drive over it now, it's pretty decent. It's actually better than a lot of the other sections of the road. So we'll keep an eye on it, keep it maintained, but we're going to be removing all that next year. So we wouldn't want to put a whole lot of money into it, as all that'll be coming out part of the street rebuild next year for State Avenue.
You do need to look at some of those cuts on Edison too. Excel left huge mounds of gravel, not any sort of paving effort. They left the hole filled with gravel, and it protrudes out of the hole. So those need to be addressed.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. And thank you, Councilor Carson, for waiting to this portion of the agenda to bring it up. And thank you for the response from City Manager and also Mr. Reynolds. Thank you for that. Okay, now I don't see, but Councilor Griego's hand is raised. Go ahead, Councilor Griego.
Thank you, Mayor. This past Friday, we had a cleanup there at St. Benedict's. I want to thank Heather. She was out there. We had some county commissioners. We had about 15, 20 people out there, and they filled up 2 of those big roll-offs and cleaned it all, 2 of them. And it looks good, you know, and I think it's scheduled every 3rd Friday, Heather, to continue staying on top of it. And I'm sure that the people around there appreciate that. But the people that got there together, thank you, Heather, for participating and stuff. So that's all I got there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council Griego. I see Ms. Brooks, you have your hand raised again.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just to add a little bit to what Councilor Greco shared, we also had board members from La Puente as well as La Puente staff, and some of the residents who were there were participating. We also had at least 3 members of our homeless coalition who were there as well. And I mean, it was mattresses and couches and chairs and a lot of rubbish and bagging that up. And there's a washing machine, no idea. I mean, so when we talk about public dumping, and you know, and that kind of stuff, it is the first big cleanup we've had since opening this. And so I think that's why we collected so much and filled those two huge containers. I think going forward, having that monthly regular pickup with volunteers it'll be much easier going forward. So we also did a little bit of picking up on the other side of the fence, just from being a good neighbor perspective, because some of the trash might have been blowing from our campsite onto that private property. So where we did have access, we did go back in there and do a little bit of trash cleanup there as well. Thank you.
Heather, thank you for mentioning those people, because it's hard when they have those masks on to even recognize a lot of those people. So I appreciate you making those comments, because there was some pretty good participation and stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I don't see any other hands raised at this time. So I'll just go ahead and wrap things up. Once again, I would like to recognize Cynthia Mejia, the Youth of the Year, the Boys and Girls Club, and thank Councilor Daniel for being present, representing the city of Alamosa and also her place of employment, I believe. And it's really good to see the city and the community come together to invest in our youth, because the youth are our future. So that was a real good event the other day. And I also just like to want to commend our city manager as well as city council members. From time to time, we get people who are going through the community spreading misinformation or information that's not even close to being true. And sometimes we have to have those tough conversations with those people. I just would like to thank our city manager and also council members who have to sometimes have have those difficult conversations, but we do it with good intentions. Let's continue to do things with good intentions. But when misinformation is being spread, be bold in your actions with spreading the truth, because complacency sometimes make it appears that the misinformation is right, and it's not. So that's all I want to say. Thank you all so very much for this meeting tonight. And if there are no other comments, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, we'll see y'all. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. See you live next time.